Good then.
All right.
And we're good to go.
Thank you, Dave. Good morning. This is a convening of the Massachusetts Gaming Commission, agenda setting meeting number 168. I'm Jordan Maynard. I'm serving as the interim chair of the Gaming Commission. This meeting is being held virtually using remote collaboration technology, so we will do a roll call. Good morning, Commissioner O'Brien.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning, Commissioner Hill.
Thank you to my fellow commissioners, and good morning, and I am here.
Good morning, Commissioner Skinner.
Good morning, Chair.
All right, it's approximately 10:09, May 1st, 2024, and we have some minutes. So commissioners, have you had time to review the minutes in the packet? All right. I move that the commission approve the minutes from the March 20th, 2024 agenda setting meeting as included in the commissioner's packet and discussed here today, subject to any necessary corrections for typographical errors or other non-material matters.
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Skinner. Commissioner O'Brien.
Aye.
Commissioner Hill.
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner.
Aye.
And I vote yes. So that's 4-0. All right, we are now going to go into the packet, and for that we can turn to the upcoming meeting schedule. We have a public meeting on May 9th. We have an MGC conference that starts on May 14th. We have an agenda setting on May 15th. We're holding May 21st for the wager limitation roundtable. On the 23rd, we have a public meeting schedule. The 29th agenda setting. And then we wanted to talk about, and I think Grace is on to talk about going into June.
Yes. So if it works for everybody, we can continue the normal cadence in through June, and I can provide those dates. It would be Thursday, June 6th for a public meeting. Wednesday, June 12th for an agenda setting meeting. Thursday, June 20th for a public meeting. And Wednesday, June 26th for agenda setting.
Commissioners, are we okay with keeping our cadence in June? All right, and then just adding to that, we do have two adjudicatory hearings, one on June 4th and one on July 30th, which is on down the pike. But those, at least, those are beverage license renewals. Those are on the agenda. So any questions about the upcoming 2 months? All right. Let's move on to May 9th meeting. All right. So start with the administrative update. Dean, will you have an administrative update?
Yes, I plan to, yes.
All right. Perfect. We will hold the meeting minutes. I'll speak for Judy on that. Judy, are we good with that? Okay, I'm seeing a yes. Commissioner Hill, legislative update?
I don't believe we'll need one at that time.
Okay. Strike that then. Councilor Grossman, will we have anything from legal on the regulation front?
We don't have anything for May 9th.
All right, thank you. Director Band, sports
Yes.
wagering.
We will have a petition for a new event by BetMGM for tomorrow's golf league. Andrew Steffi will be presenting that.
All right, thank you, and thank you to Andrew. Joe Delaney, community mitigation.
Yep, we should be all set. We had listed here 11 applications. I think it's probably going to be 10, but I'll have the final count hopefully by the end of the day tomorrow when we have our memo ready.
All right. Chief Lennon.
Hello.
Your update.
Yes, we'll be ready. Unfortunately, there will not be a lot of, well, fortunately and unfortunately, there will not be a lot of movement. This will be as bland a quarterly update as you have ever seen from us.
Got it. All right. We're looking forward to that bland update. Director Van der Linden, Dr. Andrews, Game sense evaluation.
Yes, we will be all set, and we'll try to make up for Derek's blandness.
I appreciate it. So I did talk to Carrie on item number 9, the When Caesar's conversation. That is going to be moved, I believe.
Yeah, that she carries out today, but she asked for that to be moved to 5:23. And it will also include an executive session to discuss some competitively sensitive information from the application process.
Got it. Thank you, Justin. All right, May 9th. Anybody have anything to add to May 9th or move up? Director Monahan.
We have one item that could go on the 9th or the 23rd. As the commission knows, it received the IE's recommendation for a civil administrative penalty for a Fanatics related matter. The 10 days that Fanatics has to request a hearing will be up, I believe, on the 7th or the 8th. So that could go on the 9th, or it could go on the 23rd if you chose to sort of not do it on the 9th.
I think it makes sense so we don't know whether or not they will choose.
Correct.
At this point. Commissioners, what do we want to do? I say the 23rd is fine.
I think the 23rd is fine. And I think that is the anticipated date, but that was referenced in the memo. So I'd ask that we hold to that if possible.
Sounds good.
Great.
All right. Anybody else have anything to add?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things that we have brought up in the last, 4 to 6 weeks in terms of any communications that we may want to send to the legislature. One we talked about yesterday, which was the ABCC language. And I defer to you on timing, Commissioner Hill, your better sense of when it's appropriate, whether the 9th or the 23rd. We also have the question of the 2017 letter that was sent by the prior commission regarding iLottery and the suggestion that they define. So both of those are ripe. The question is the 9th or the 23rd.
So, Mr. Chairman, the 9th, because they're literally putting the budget together today. They'll be debating the budget probably on the 23rd.
Okay, so the 9th would be the better time to do that on those two topics.
I actually, I'm throwing this out for discussion purposes only. I don't know if there's an hour that we can put aside and have a public meeting before the 9th to discuss this, because they literally are discussing this as we speak. I don't know if the 9th is too late.
It's too late.
If we want something to be put into their budget, or to, let
Or to
them
have
know
a communication from us under consideration, it would need to get in before the 9th.
I believe the sooner the better. I don't know if any of the staff agrees or disagrees with me on that, but timing wise, they are literally putting this together as we speak.
I'm thinking. So I mean, first of all, to be clear, I would need some information on both of these topics, right? Mm-hmm. We said that yesterday, as far as what's going on. I looked at the 2017 letter, not sure how applicable it is to 2024, and what's going on there. Again, I would need to look. What's the suggestion, Commissioner Hill, Commissioner O'Brien?
Well, I think the suggestion is we want to be very clear that if iLottery is passed, that we know who, what lane each agency is in.
Right. And we had some, and without getting into substance, maybe, and talking to get maybe some understanding from the background on legal. I know I've spoken with Carrie and Justin about this a little bit in terms of, is there any other conversations in other states that have done this where there's a line in the definition so it's clear we're not going to be going in each other's lanes? Could be, could not be. That was sort of the suggestion in 2017. And I can see the risk. And so it's really a question of, do we see that, and do we see our role as putting any input on that or not?
And let's be very clear. We're not suggesting whether we're for or against it.
Correct.
We just want to be clear what responsibilities each agency has should this move forward.
Right.
Yeah.
We don't want a gray area. We want it black and white if possible.
Right.
I hear you. I would also say that bringing up the topic and discussing the topic in an open forum will, of course, put us in the middle of the conversation. And, you know, I respect the treasurer, I respect the legislature, I respect the governor and their decision making. So a little uncomfortable about how we're going to do this, especially with the knowledge that we have or don't have, but happy to schedule a meeting. That's what we're here for. So.
Right, and no disrespect is intended, certainly by myself, and I'm sure Commissioner Hill, it's knowing historically, you know, from institutional knowledge that the prior composition did in fact feel compelled to point this out. And there is no definition in the proposed language. It's essentially the same proposed bill that was commented on by the prior constitution of the commission. I think it behooves us to have the conversation in a respectful manner. So in terms of timing, you know, in terms of timing, you know, obviously there's not a lot of dates between now and the 9th, you know.
And I'd be more than willing, Mr. Chairman, to, you know, invite all parties so we can have this discussion. I just want to make sure, Mr. Chairman, that when this goes through, and it's going to, I believe, that there isn't a gray area that we now have to, you know, sit and wonder how we're going to implement something. That's all.
Right. Or any confusion on the part of operators and licensees on our end.
Okay, I guess we'll look to find some time on the schedule, Grace. And we'll see if we can come up with a meeting. I'm just going to say it on the record. I'm not comfortable weighing in on legislation that's not even down the pike yet, but I'm happy to not weigh in on it in a public meeting. So, all right.
Well, let me be clear though, Commissioner Maynard, it is on the pike. It's on the table, which is why, again, a prior commission thought differently. And so knowing that it's out there, I feel like we did distribute it once before or after we brought it up. So it's, I think, worthy of a conversation, maybe a very short conversation, but something we should probably have in fulfilling our duties.
Yeah, the Senate also has to get a hold of this. So, all right.
Yep.
Commissioner Skinner.
No, I don't need to add anything else to this conversation. I think we got to a place where you actually got to a place where you were comfortable moving forward with the suggestion of having a public meeting. I was really just going to ask, and I don't know if we can do that here because this isn't marked up for discussion, but just on the timing, do we have a good sense of when, if this commission were to decide to write such a letter for this budget cycle on the same topics, when would that need to be submitted and to whom, right? I think we need to know that in order to try to work in the timing here.
I can answer part of that question, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Commissioner Hill.
So as soon as possible, we need to get the letter in. It would go to the president of the Senate. It would go to the Speaker of the House. It would go to the chairman of Ways and Means of the Senate. It would go to the Ways and Means of the House. And we have in the past also sent it to the Economic Development Chair, since they are the ones that put the sports wagering and the casino bills forward. So out of courtesy to them, we've always included. So those would be the 6 right off the hand that we would send them to. But the president, the speaker, and the 2 chairs are, for our purposes of the budget, those would be the 4 that we would want to talk to or, you know, send a letter to ASAP.
And do we not anticipate that there will be a conference committee put
There will be.
together for negotiation? And so
Yep.
would that be a more appropriate time to submit? I mean, setting aside the question of more appropriate, it would certainly give us some additional time to work in a meeting that we can, at which we can discuss more the matters in a more informed way. Because as Commissioner O'Brien said, there's not a lot of time between now and May 9th. So I don't know how we're going to how we're gonna work this then. I wouldn't be available for a meeting prior to the 9th. In fact, I'm not available for the meeting on the 9th. I'm not suggesting that this shouldn't go forward on the 9th if necessary. But I think we would, and Commissioner Hale, I certainly defer to you as a former legislator, but I do think that we would have another opportunity later in the budgetary process to make our concerns known.
And we would for sure. Could also suggest, it doesn't necessarily have to be a letter, although, we like to have a trail, of course, that we sent it. We also are always in conversations with their staff throughout the process. They will call us, ask our opinion, and I can't say that won't happen again this year. And again, if anybody in staff who's had those conversations agree or disagrees with me, feel free, through you, Mr. Chairman.
So the only risk you run is if the Senate comes out with the exact same language as the House, it's out of conference. The rules of conference kick it out. So that's the only risk you run by waiting until after that. Not that there won't be other bills you could put an amendment in, but you'd have to wait most likely for a year-end sup, which usually doesn't hit until September or October.
Yeah, and if I may, so that's where I'm coming from on this, is that I would like to see what the legislature does, right? Obviously, they already have this 2017 letter theoretically, if we have it. I would like to see what they do with this. I would like to see this go forward. It's, to me, not our lane. We are not the lottery. And then what I would do is any unintended consequences that comes into our lane, right? We can address that with the legislature and address it with the governor's office, and there's subs and there's other ways to fix it. I think we are potentially creating a conversation about something that hasn't happened yet. And that is where I'm coming from on this. That is my perspective. So,
Mr. Chairman,
right.
in all due respect, in the sports wagering bill that was put forth, there were some issues that were gray that we needed to be black and white that still have not yet been rectified, that we're still having conversations about. Wouldn't it behoove us to just let them know ahead of time that there could be unintended consequences if the questions that were asked have not yet been answered? I would rather have it fixed beforehand than after the fact.
My question would be, did the lottery weigh in on those for sports wagering? Because that is the analogous of what we are talking about here. That is the analogous of what we're talking about here, is the Gaming Commission is weighing in on something that doesn't belong to the Gaming Commission.
Well, if you go to other jurisdictions, I think there could be an argument that that is not a true statement.
All right.
That's not an accurate statement. I don't want to say not true, not an accurate statement.
Commissioner O'Brien.
So again, the reason that I initiated this conversation was because our prior constitution of this body did in fact feel an obligation to point out that the lack of a definition could lead to confusion. So that's where I'm coming from on this. Is, to your point, we now have 23N, which did not exist at that time. So does that change things where we say, you know what, there's no reason for us to add to this conversation? Or does it? It could be a very quick conversation. So to me, the fact that a prior constitution of this body did in fact chime in, and to assume they had the 2017 letter, I don't know. We did not resend it to them because this is a different body. We may not want to send that to them. And so that's the genesis of why I brought this up and why I'm looking to have a conversation with it. So I don't think we're out of our lane, Commissioner Maynard. A prior constitution of this body submitted something over on this topic. We may not want to, but the only way we can have that conversation, obviously, is in public.
And even though this is a subject matter that, you may be not comfortable with, there are actually a couple of other legislative issues that I think we should talk about. For example, the HUS fund, and, asking if we could have some O&M money out of that. That is something that we really need to have a discussion with the legislature about during the budget process. So even if it's like Commissioner O'Brien said, it's a very short conversation on this issue on iLottery, there are a couple of other issues that we would like to bring to the commission to talk about as well. So we'd like to
I'm
have,
wondering, do we need to have bullets of, these are sort of the 3 budget area conversations to have? It
and
sounds
I
like
would say,
there's 3 potentially at most right now, right?
yeah, and we can get those to Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, are we comfortable having this meeting with only 3 commissioners?
Well,
One
time
represents the
wise,
treasury.
it's the only time we can.
I think we've known about these issues for a long, long time. All right. All right, we will we'll work on a date.
Or the 9th, again, doesn't have to be before, the sooner the better, but if it's the 9th, then maybe we have phone calls instead of letters.
All right, we'll work on a date. Anybody have anything else to add on the 9th? All right, let's move on to May 23rd. ED Serpa. Anything on the administrative update?
Yes, I would plan to have one.
All right, thank you. Judy, I'm going to go ahead and hold that minute slot if you're good with that. Good. Commissioner Hill, will we have a legislative update then?
I would suggest we probably might.
All right. Councilor Grossman.
Yes, we actually do have 2 sets of regulations for the 23rd, if we may. The first is 205 CMR 16 relative to the simulcasting regulations. Those will be coming back for review of any public comments and potential final adoption. And similarly, section 238.12 are regulations pertaining to letters of credit, which have been before the commission before. Those will also be back for a review of any comments and potential final adoption. And we'll get some language over to you for the agenda for that.
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. Director Band, do we have anything coming on for sports wagering?
Yep, Crystal, don't we have something with 257 then? There you are.
Hello. We have been asked to bring something forth related to 257. I think we're looking at that last meeting in May as being the first date we could give a brief overview on the waivers anticipated. I'm looking for Commissioner O'Brien, but oh, there you are. Why can't I see the boxes today? And then I think the next step would be the first meeting in June. Now that we know it's the 6th, that would be a day we would need to review those waivers. It appears right now we probably won't really have more, but related to that one, I don't know the reg. I don't have it in front of me, but the one related to hashing and encryption where it requires the variance request, similar to what we just did with KYC on Monday, it looks like that would be the process to review the variance for those. And since the reg waiver currently ends June 30th, I think we'd need that first meeting to consider those. So we just wanted to put a placeholder on that. But that's the only update I have right now on those. So I think those 2 dates would make sense.
Okay. We good with that, commissioners? All right.
Thank you.
Commissioner O'Brien, we have it marked down for an independent monitor. I've heard that maybe that's been moved.
Right, so I heard back from Alejandra and they are working on getting it done, but there's not going to be enough time for them to work their way back from the 23rd and get it to us in advance for us to look at. So looking at our cadence, they believe if they present on the 6th of June, then they would be able to get us something maybe by the 30th of May. That would give us about a week before they would come and publicly present, which is traditionally how we've done it. So pull them off the 23rd, and if the 6th does work, that should work for them as well.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you for keeping on top of that. Director Vanderlinden, Dr. Andrews. we have that there will be a casino job quality report for that date.
Bonnie is shaking her head yes, so I'm going with that.
All right. Anything else to add from you and Dr. Andrews that day?
I would like to add an additional item, looking at a potential partnership with Gamban as a VSE or blocking tool. The
That would be a conversation around like the Ohio kind of
correct.
similar to
Yep.
what Ohio is in.
Mhm. It's largely following the model that Ohio has in place currently.
All right. Okay. Commissioners, we good with adding that? All right. And Director Monahan, I think you have a few things for us that day.
A couple of things. So the last thing on the agenda there, we would like to keep, so that's, it's not really a continued discussion about the role in adjudicatory hearing, the IB's role in adjudicatory hearings, but it would be requesting that the commission make a decision as to how it would like the IEB to the role IEB would play in 3 matters that it's chosen to take up as hearings. So we'll bring those 3 matters back just for that discrete decision. We talked a minute ago about the Fanatic review of the Fanatic civil administrative penalty. So it'd be great to have that on the 23rd. And then we have a request for 2 executive sessions. One would relate to an update regarding union negotiations. And the second would relate to an update and discussion regarding financial investigations.
All right. And we, just, this is for Grace and others. We should probably move your materials kind of to the front. We have a scheduling issue that day, but I want to make sure that all the commissioners are able to make those conversations. So I'm sure that's okay with you, Caitlin. I know that you have to coordinate with outside counsel and so forth. All right. We good with that, commissioners, for IEB? All right. Now I have that we're going to move under review.
Mr. Chair, just on the 23rd, I just, you skipped by the community affairs. But we'll
Sorry
be,
about that, Joe.
yeah, we'll be good to go on that. But the one thing I just did want to add is, I know we just added the meeting on June 6th. I would ask if Grace can reserve us a little bit of time on that. We may have 1 or 2 stragglers that aren't going to be ready for the 23rd. So we would like some time on the June 6th meeting to hopefully finish up for the season.
All right. And that reminds me, Joe, thank you. Does anyone else have anything else to add to the 23rd? Okay, I don't see anything. Commissioners, anything to add? All right. So we'll move to under review. And we'll start with Joe. It looks like Joe, Todd, Commissioner Hill, the ILEV review process under review.
Yeah, so I think we could actually probably move that to the 23rd. We put together a memo on sort of our status on what we do and how we do it, and we have a couple of sort of minor recommendations for improvements. It's a little anticlimactic considering how long this has been on the under review list, but I think we can have a memo for the 23rd and bring that for really kind of an update for the commission.
Yep, we're all set for that.
Perfect. Commissioner O'Brien, the Compliance Committee.
That is still under review.
All right. Commissioner Skinner and Joe, HCA compliance update.
That's still under review, please.
All right. We have Easter Broadway, I'm assuming still under review, Joe.
It is. We have nothing new to report on that as of today. So.
All right. Multifactorial authentication regulation Ohio example, isn't that that's separate from the other Ohio that we discussed?
Correct. Yeah. And I have not touched base with Carrie on this. I know she was not in a position to advance to a date. I'm assuming it's still the same. I don't know, Justin or Todd.
Yeah, Commissioner O'Brien, she sent me an email yesterday and she indicated that that will likely be ready for discussion sometime in a meeting in June. So it'll probably be coming before the commission in the future agenda setting in the immediate future.
Okay, so under review for now, but probably June.
All right, then I have a DPH report, equity pillars and problem gambling. Commissioner Hill, Commissioner O'Brien.
So my understanding is that we all may be meeting the new commissioner soon. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, so this is actually a really good time to bring this up. Can you explain to us what the equity pillars and problem gambling conversation was? I know that the former chair had discussed it. It's kind of hard for me to understand what the aim and the goal was with that heading.
I think what the hope had been is that maybe we set up liaisons of the commission to meet with DPH to go over issues that, you know, we share, get updates, see what we can do better, you know, with the partnership between DPH and the Mass Gaming Commission. And the former chair had suggested that Commissioner O'Brien and I be those liaisons. However, I think at this point, that should be a discussion amongst the commission and who the two would be that would move into that position or considered position. So I think it was just for us to be able to meet with DPH officials and staff and go over all our partnerships and, you know, talk about them. And as we do in our own agency, what can we do better, you know, for the consumer and for dialogue between agencies and things like that. There's been, as you know, 3 at least new commissioners over the last couple of years, and there's been new staff at DPH because of the administration change. And maybe this would be a good time, you know, to start up new relationships between the agencies. And I think that was the what the agenda was from the former chair.
Okay.
Commissioner O'Brien, did that cover it?
No, I think that covers it.
Okay, yeah, so Commissioner Goldstein did reach out and I met with him this week. I had suggested, and he was very open to the fact that we could do a meet and greet similar to what we did with the legislature last month. And perhaps we could all go over. We can't say much, obviously, because of the open meeting law, but the team would be able to present on some things. I was thinking that Director Van der Linden and his team, ED Serpa would go. And then from there, we could do exactly what you just suggested, Commissioner Hill, is get together and choose some folks to continue the conversation after the meet and greet. Commissioner Skinner, I see your mic's on.
Yeah, I just would be remiss if I didn't make those who aren't aware that I've had several conversations with DPH. I have been meeting with them since well before the chair's retirement. And so Commissioner Hill, thanks for sharing what what her intent was in assigning the matters that I've been working on all this time to you and Commissioner O'Brien. That is not something that I understood based on the language here of the matters under review. So I do think it's something that should be discussed. But I'd be advocating to continue having those discussions as I have been doing for the past several months.
So I think it makes sense for us all to go over and say hello and then follow up on the conversation. And I appreciate that, Commissioner Skinner, you letting us know that. That's appreciated. It's an interesting topic and everyone is interested in it. That's all this shows: passion for the topic and passion for the collaboration with DPH. So it's appreciated. I almost gave you an upgrade there, Director Van der Linden. Dr. Van der Linden.
Sure, let's do it. If I may, I think a discussion of the pillars, equity pillars and problem gambling is really what I understood was an invitation for Victor Ortiz, the director of the Office of Problem Gambling Services, to come before the commission at one of our public meetings to talk about sort of the framework under which he works and the programs and services that he has and how it feeds into those equity pillars. But if there's a meet and greet with all the commissioners and key staff at DPH, perhaps it would fall kind of under that in that setting versus an open public meeting.
Well, it sounds like there's a lot of sub issues to bring up, and that's one of them.
Yeah.
Mark, so I appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah, I think let's go over and say hello and then see what the sub issues are and start tackling them.
Great. Sounds good.
So you're up, Mark, so don't turn your mic off. Gambling advertising report.
Yeah, it's well under review. I think we're in our second round of reviews for this one with our research review committee. So we're getting close, but I'm not quite ready to assign a date to that yet. Hopefully by the next agenda planning meeting, we can get that pinned down.
Got it. All right. Anything else to add to under review, Mark?
I don't have anything specifically, but Bonnie, do you have anything?
No, I don't think there's anything else to add.
Oh, no, we're going to talk about AI here in a second. We'll go over to Commissioner Hill and Chief Lynn. Discussion on procurement thresholds.
I think July
Keep
or
that under.
August. What do you think, July or August, Commissioner Hill? Well, it's quiet. I mean, I don't think we have as much interest in this as we have in the DPH matters, but it would be a good one for a quiet meeting. You know,
We'll keep it under review for now.
and two things to add, the first budget review, and I would like the first meeting in June for that. The FY out for comment for 2 weeks. And then come back on, I think, the 20th and hopefully approve or take up those comments.
Okay, sounds good. Commissioner Skinner.
Derek, could you repeat that?
So the first budget review for FY25, I think we're looking at June 6th for that. And then we usually put it out for public comment. So it's just the first time the commissioners get to see it. You'll obviously have a 2x2 prior to it. We'll go over some of the high topics, where we are up or down, any new positions, any new initiatives, how we plan on dealing with them. Put it out for public comment. We'll have already met with all the directors. We'll have met with the licensees. They'll have already seen it. We'll be able to give you an idea of what they were thinking. And then after public comment, hopefully come back on the 20th and approve it, or take up those comments and come back shortly thereafter to approve it.
Thank you.
Yes.
Does that work for everybody? All right. 205 CMR 257, Commissioner O'Brien.
Yeah, so I had talked to sports wagering about working back from when the waivers on these were going to expire and getting a more technical update on where they are in compliance. You know, I know some had the ability to comply faster than others. And so rather than just keep coming in and saying, well, we need more time, I was hoping to get a little more specifics on the people that needed more time. Like, well, where are you exactly, right? Can you do partial compliance rather than a blanket waiver, that sort of thing. So that's what I'm hoping this is going to be.
That update would be the 23rd that I brought up earlier. We already have the information.
And it may or may not
I
require
think you'll be
executive
happy,
session.
actually.
Good. Acknowledging it may or may not require an executive session depending on, you know, what they need to say to us and how detailed.
Got it. All right. Commissioner O'Brien, you had a discussion of AI as a responsible gaming tool. I know Director Vanderlinde had thought about putting together a roundtable and asked me some time ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, about joining that. I didn't know if that's something that we still want to do as a group, and happy to talk about who joins, who doesn't join, or how we can do a 2x2 situation. Open to ideas.
Yeah. but I can start briefly, Mark, and then I'll hand it off to you, which is this discussion of AI and how it could be used either by the operators on their own and or by a reg that we would add that would fold into our responsible gaming framework that said, you know, the data, the metrics that you're using can use AI to then flag problem gambling and offer resources and be more proactive. I believe, and Mark, you know far more on this than I do, that some of these things are already kind of in play in Europe in other ways. And there's a whole study that Mark's got. So it would be good. 2x2s, I think, would be very helpful. So all of us can be kind of brought up to speed on what this is and where we want to go from here. But Mark, I don't know what you think.
That sounds great to me. We had talked about forming just an internal working group that included different departments, divisions, including obviously IT, legal, sports wagering, to begin wrapping our arms around this. And so, and I think Grace is working to try to find a time if we don't already have a time to do that. And then I think 2x2s is great. We do have, you know, we have an RFR to do a specific study on AI as it relates to gaming in general, but with a specific focus on RG. I think that is approved as part of our research agenda and moving forward. I don't think we need to wait for the findings from this study in order to kind of continue the path moving forward. So I think those can kind of happen in parallel. I think in the bigger picture, at some point, I think it would be, as I recommended back when I discussed this item with the commission, I also think it would be important to invite our operators to come and tell us what capacity they currently have and whether or not it's being used in any other jurisdictions. They're using it in any other jurisdictions. Likely not the US, but you're right, Commissioner O'Brien. It's more widely used outside of the US. So I think let's find out what the landscape is there. I think that there's this, again, as I mentioned in my report on this, there's a plethora of paths forward here of how the commission would want to pursue it, I guess, including doing nothing. But there's a variety of paths forward, but I think, you know, making sure that all the commissioners feel educated and comfortable with where we land on it. So there's a couple moving pieces there. But I think getting this moving is a great idea.
So I'm going to make a suggestion and we'll see how this works. Maybe we do some 2x2s. You get started on your AI working group and then we can decide amongst us who wants to join the working group internally, and then externally, of course, we'll all continue to be engaged and involved. Does that sound good, commissioners? Perfect. All right. Anything else on that?
I did actually, this morning, I forwarded to all of you a webinar that's sponsored by the International Center for Responsible Gaming, looking at AI and responsible gaming. So should be an interesting webinar. It's being led by Dr. Sarah Nelson from Cambridge Health Alliance Division on Addiction. So she's a local and very well respected researcher in this space.
Perfect. Well, thank you for forwarding that along too. All right. I have the next issue is an MGC license seal of approval, and I'm hearing good news on that this morning.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Our colleagues over at Jackrabbit sent Dave and I their draft, and we are thrilled with what they sent us. We're just kind of taking a look and going to be ready to present a couple options to the commission in pretty quickly, pretty soon.
Oh, great.
All right, great. Sounds good. We look forward to it. And then Commissioner Skinner, you added the licensee diversity audit back onto the under review after it somehow made its way off.
Yeah, that could stay under review for now.
Okay. All right, now here's the broad all call. Anything else to add? I see Joe's microphone went off. I saw Bruce's microphone went off. Joe?
Yes, so I think at the last agenda setting meeting, I wasn't here, but Mary had brought up our licensees' quarterly reports. We've reached out to them and they would all like to come in on June 6th. So, so Grace, if we can put some time on there for the quarterly reports, they each take about 20 minutes. So that would be about an hour's worth of time to do all three of them.
Okay, sounds good. Commissioners, we good with that? It's always good to hear what's going on. Update. Bruce, were you good? Justin?
I've got something too, Mr. Chair. So this is a relatively discrete issue, but under our hearing regs, the chair has the ability to appoint a sole commissioner to deal with certain administrative requests that come as part of the appeals process, whether that be a request for an extension of time, a request for extension of or additional pages in a brief, things of that nature. And that is something the chair can do by designation. That does come up from time to time and it's an easier way to handle those things rather than get the entire commission together to deal with that in a adjudicatory session. So that's just something I'd like to put on the under review to be considered because it would help us with some of these requests, which we do get from time to time, and you will actually be seeing them later today, where we do get these sort of more administrative requests. And I think designating one commissioner, which we have done in the past, to handle those will just allow that to be handled, and then the sort of the substantive stuff will still come before the full commission. So just wanted to put that on under review.
Thank you, Justin. And just so the commissioners know, Justin and I did have a conversation. He brought this up as part of things that exist that I didn't know exist under our former situation. So this is something that I wanted everyone to hear that existed and was something the chair has to sort out. So my understanding is it wasn't used much before, which is why it probably didn't come up, but it's being needed more, it seems like. So I will take it under advisement and make a decision on who to designate for that matter. Thank you, Justin. All right. Anything else to add? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Commissioner O'Brien,
Aye.
Commissioner Hill,
Aye.
Commissioner Skinner,
Aye.
and I vote yes. Everyone have a great May 1st. It's May 1st. Have a good one.